All right, today I'm For the Love of Sports. I'm Michael Rasile. My guest today is Andy Borowsky, founder and CEO of Sockey. He's also a teacher, an education teacher, and we appreciate him for that. Andy, how you doing today, man?
Good morning, Michael. How are you? Good to be here.
It's a good day to be alive, brother. It's a good day to be
Yeah,
alive. The Northeast is starting to warm up a little bit, so hopefully can go outside a little more often and not have. I mean, we're all cooped up inside in some capacity, but hopefully
yeah,
eventually can at least just sit outside on my deck moving forward. So I wouldn't be too angry about that.
exactly. Days like this make it nice. It's nice to
Exactly.
get outside.
Yep. After this interview, I'm probably going to go do a little work from the deck. So it's nice and sunshiny there. So I'll go enjoy it. But Andy, first question I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast is, why do you love sports so much?
Oh, wow. Well, I realized at a very young age that I was a highly competitive person, and going outside. I grew up in the outside suburbs of Philadelphia, so we always had kids around, neighbor friends, and we would always go outside and play. And I was usually one of the youngest, surrounded by a lot of older guys in the neighborhood. And with that competitive edge and just playing sports, no matter what it was, we'd go out and play baseball, football, hockey, soccer. I just learned at a young age that I was competitive, and I loved bringing that out through sports, and it just carried through my entire life. As I got a little bit older, I focused more on hockey more than anything else. Hockey takes up a lot of time with the ice time and the traveling, and so I kind of phased away on the other sports and focused more on hockey. But as I was growing up, I realized outside of my neighborhood, when you grow up in the outside of Philadelphia, there's that competition everywhere. And the more I started traveling around and playing sports, no matter what sport it was, really, I just found like, wow, there's a lot of people out there that have that same competitive edge through sports. Let's do it. I welcome the challenge and just always loved the competitive aspect of it, all the way up from being a little kid to high school to college and even then coaching.
I love it, man. And that's
Yeah.
that's one thing a lot of people do bring up is that competitive aspect of sports because it's something that you learn from a very young age, right? Like I'm not the most competitive person, but man, I hate losing. I hate
Yeah.
losing so much. So I don't know exactly how that qualifies me, but the competitive nature and the competitive aspect of sports is definitely something that people learn. They learn the hard work aspect. They learn a lot of different things when it comes to sports. So I think it's very important to really understand those from a young age because you're going to be able to
Yeah.
utilize those moving forward. As we said, you're a teacher. So first off, thank you. But
Right.
I'm sure there's some sort of competitive aspect in that or something you can at least um, allow to go through you to the kids that you are teaching and helping them understand those aspects too. And so with, as you said, growing up outside of Philadelphia, sorry to hear that, of course, but
Yeah. I was waiting
where
for that. I knew.
yeah, don't worry. There'll be a couple more jabs throughout this. I promise you that.
Okay.
With that, how long did you end up playing hockey for, and how far did you take the hockey career? Now, obviously, understanding you coach it, but the
Right.
playing days, what were those like?
Right. Well, I started young with the influence of my father when I was about 5, 6, 7 years old. My family, we were fortunate to have my grandfather actually got Flyer season tickets in 1968,
That's cool.
and yeah, and passed down to my father, then passed down to me. So we've had the same tickets since 1968. So hockey's always been in my family, along with my uncles, of course. And so I played high school, well, youth, then high school, then college. When I decided I wanted to focus more on the education aspect, I didn't really take hockey to a higher level, but I actually played at Rider University. That's where I was college, so familiar in New Jersey. Um, Following college, I had a little stint at an ACHL team up, near us. But at that point, I was kind of past my peak. I was about 25 years old. I welcomed the opportunity, but my body wasn't the same, and so I kind of stopped there after a few tryouts of the ECHL. I was also juggling teaching at the time, so it would have been difficult to do. But then I pretty much jumped into coaching, and that's kept that competitive edge. I was coaching in Lawrenceville and then at Princeton Day School for a while, and then fortunate for me, Sockey really took off, and I couldn't juggle everything, and so I had to swap the skates for some socks and a stick, and so be it. And that's where we are today.
I love it, man. And we'll get into that story a little bit more. But I mean, just getting a tryout in the ECHL has to be so cool. And just
Yeah,
not that you needed the validation, but man, that is, I mean, you made it to minor leagues. Like not too many people make it to college. Not too many people make it past there. So kudos and congratulations to you, man. I think that it
thanks.
is so cool. And just the opportunity. I actually have a buddy of mine who was the GM of the Elmira Jackals, if I'm not mistaken. I
Okay, I
think
think
an
yep.
ECHL team up in like upstate New York or New Hampshire. I honestly have no idea exactly where it is, but
Yeah.
it was really interesting. And, him telling me all those stories. And I guess what was that time like, especially playing in college, Rider, I don't know what division Rider is for hockey, so I'll need you to help me out there.
Yeah,
But
they were a D. I think at the time they might have been a D2 club.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. I think they've raised the bar a little bit now. I'm not sure what they are. And for what it was, we were a really good team, and we won a championship one year. And I loved it. It just kept me on the ice, and it was good competition. But I'm sorry, getting back to your question, where were we going with
oh,
that?
I don't know. I never even made it
Oh,
there.
where
What
was I?
was
Not
the ECHL like?
That's right.
Like,
I'm
what
sorry.
was minor league hockey like?
Right. I only had a stint there, so it was definitely exciting, like you said. I mean, I remember going for the tryout. I remember when I found out I was going to have the tryout, I had about 3 months to actually prepare for it. And I mean, I took the summer. It was right at the end of the summer, and that was my focus all summer, was just to prepare for this. And it was exciting. I mean, just to think about it and to be there and to be again at that level where you're playing with guys that are just, awesome. Yeah, and that's not even the highest of high, and to be, on the same ice as some of those guys was great. Yeah, it was a thrill. It was great. It's something I'll always remember for sure. And I had a couple buddies when I was coaching in New Jersey. There was a couple buddies that played as well. There was actually a time where I think there was a lull, and some of my buddies that were also coaching, and we were all young. They got a call to come up and play a game here or two, here or there. And I said, "Wow, that would be awesome if I can, get something like that." So. Unfortunately, some injuries got in the way, and I'm 5'6" on a good day, so it's not easy for us little guys to make it that far.
I mean, I'm sure in the program book you're like 6 feet with skates on, so it's fine,
Exactly.
and you're doing something right. And
Yeah,
no, I
yeah,
mean, we have all those emergent, every year or every I guess I don't know, like 5 years, it looks like there's an emergency goalie popping in somewhere
yep,
making some incredible saves. That was,
yeah,
I think it was earlier this year, but honestly, these last 2 months
yep.
have felt like 3 years, so I actually don't remember. But it's just so cool seeing those stories, those opportunities. It's always a lot of fun, and hey, maybe that's going to be you one day, Andy. Maybe that's going to be you one day. We'll see what
Great.
happens.
I wish. That'd be awesome.
Could you, if you don't mind, could you hold out the microphone a little bit? It's scratching against your t-shirt. So it's, yeah,
about that.
yeah, no, you're good. You're good. No worries. Just done it a little bit. So with that, as you said, when you were at the ECHL team, you were already actually getting into teaching. So what is it about teaching that you've wanted to do? Teaching, coaching, it seems like that's kind of the route you were going for a long time. What was it about that you always, you had this dream, you had this desire to kind of, as I like to say, shape our youth?
Right. I think it goes back to my earlier days. I grew up going to camp my entire life, and I'll never forget the first year that I actually transferred from being a camper to a counselor. Was a big transition, and it was amazing time. As much as I love being a camper, I was fortunate to be a counselor for the first year with one of my best friends, and still to this day, and we just had a blast. And the excitement and the energy that we felt just being able to give back and putting those smiles on our campers' faces and having a good time, and being looked up to as like a role model, was just a tremendous experience. And from there, I kind of realized that, hey, I could do this as a coach. I could do this as a teacher. Everything that I've kind of had experience with, not the teaching at that point, but at the sports, and that kind of merged a little bit as I got older, is to jump into education. And I knew that if I was going to be in education, I'd still have my summers free, to be a camp counselor, to work in sports, in the summertime, whatever that might be. And it's really, it came through, and then that's how it worked out. That passion that I have about just kind of wanting to do more for others, and make people feel good about what they're doing, and build their confidence in ways that I've learned through sports growing up, and through my camp experience, was something that I was able to portray and give back in that aspect.
Well, we appreciate you there, man. I think a lot of parents, especially of younger children, are learning it's not that easy being a
No.
teacher. And hey, maybe they do deserve a couple extra bucks. I will ride that train all day. I want you guys to get paid as much as possible. But again, it's the teaching, it's the coaching aspect. And so tell me the story. I mean, you've already told me, but I think now we have the red light on. We're recording. Tell me the story about how Sockey came about because of what you were doing with teaching and coaching at the time.
Sure. So I was just going back to 2006. I was teaching and coaching in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, and I was teaching second grade, and coaching. And luckily I had good relationships with the PTA. I was always trying to help out in any type of capacity for the kids after school, whatever it might be, or any type of programs. And one of the mothers from the PTA had a great idea. She said, "Hey, listen, you're the local hockey guy. We'd love for you to run an after school hockey program, if you like to, just to keep the kids busy. And instead of going home and who knows what they're doing, let them stay after school for a little bit and play some hockey." So I said, "Sure, that's great. Let's do it. Let me run it by the principal and we'll put a program together." To make a really long story short, I ran it by our principal, who was a great guy, open about it. He said, "Sure, let me hear what you got." And when I told him the idea, he said, "You know what? The only problem is our school just built a brand new gymnasium floor, spent thousands of dollars on this floor. So if you scratch this floor up with hockey sticks, he pretty much said, I'm a dead man. I can't let you do it. I'm sorry, as much as I like to." And I said, "Okay, well, there's got to be a way we could figure this out." So at the time I was again coaching high school players, and we would do a lot of off ice training because it's difficult to get to the rink every day. So I had my ice hockey players come to the gym, and I said, "Guys, we're going to practice indoors today, and we're going to put a sweat sock, literally bring a sweat sock to practice." And we taped our sweat socks onto our stick, slid them on, taped them around so they'd stay. And we scrimmaged for a good hour. And it was awesome. It was fun. Nobody got hurt. Not a scratch on the floor. It was amazing. And I said, "Hey, there you go. Why don't I just buy a ton of sweat socks, put them on the sticks, and we'll play a bit of play." And it was just came, how do I not call it Sockey? At that point, sock and hockey. I mean, it was just, right there. So principal said, "Go for it." It was a hit the first year in 2006, and it just continued to grow and be popular after that. And which, long story, but it developed into where we are now.
Floor hockey was always one of my favorite sports to play in gym class. More towards high school because, we were a little bit more adept and capable than second graders. But shout out to those second graders. Or shout out to everybody who was playing at the time, which is pretty funny. But
yeah, and you know what? It's funny being in the area still. I live in Pennsylvania, but I'm right at the border of New Jersey, and still do a lot and I teach in New Jersey. And my coaching experience and whatever. And I run into some former students all the time. And I recently ran into a guy who was one of my first hockey players in 2006. And I had the team picture. I have all my team pictures. I make it a point to take a team picture for every single team that goes through Sockey. And we have multiple seasons throughout the year. So we have, tons of team pictures. And once in a while I bump into former students, and I bumped into a guy who was at my shoulders, I think, for this team pictures. He was a big second grader, and I bumped into him, and now he's like 6'7".
Nice.
Huge. And it's like, "Hey, do you remember?" He's like, "Yeah, of course, man. That was the best. I remember Sockey." And so that's cool, being able to find those kids that play the game through all these years. And the funny thing is, majority of them were never hockey players. They just wanted something fun to do. It was at school, run around, learn the game. We played music, and yeah, we brought the game to a lot of people, and we still do.
Exactly. And that it allows you to, your expertise within the sport to allow that again to go through your experiences, your wisdom, your knowledge to go to these kids. And now they get to learn a little bit more about this sport. It's, I love all four of the major sports. They're all fantastic. Baseball is my favorite, of course, but man, if you can teach someone hockey and then just sit them down in front of a TV, double overtime in game 7 of some playoff round, if you're not into it, man, you're never going to be into it. So, you can just go home at that point. But what, so the idea is great, putting sweat socks on hockey sticks. I love it. How do you monetize that? How do you then not just write on a sweat sock, like patent pending, what I mean? So how do you then turn this into a business?
Yeah, well, that's a great question because I actually have one of those.
I love it.
Again, the tricky part is when, going back to 2006 and then, for the next 4 or 5 years, everybody kept saying to me, "Hey man, this is awesome. You got to do something with it. You got to do this, you got to do that." And, I was juggling teaching and, everything else in life, and it wasn't, and coaching. So it was, as much as I wanted to, it was hard to find the time to do it. I had ideas. I once, got the sock, and I still have it. I think it's on our website, where the original sock, it's literally a white sweat sock. And I wrote with a blue Sharpie Sockey on it because that was my vision. Like, I want to turn this into something. Years down the road. And again, luckily the program was popular. So the program has been running for a very long time, and we're introducing kids to the game. So that was generating a little bit of revenue. We also give a lot back to the community, which helps out. So to answer your question, it came to a point where about 5 or 6 years later, I said I have to be able to design or develop something better than just a sock. And then we went through another couple of years of figuring, what worked best for that. I went from a white sweat sock to a white tube sock that was professionally, mocked up, and it had our
Okay.
logo on it, which was cool for a couple of years. But still, I thought, we could do something better, because at the end of the day, I'm ruining these socks. They're not going to last. I'm wasting a lot of money on very cool socks
Hmm.
for our sticks. So finally, just as a hockey player, I thought, what would I want? Growing up, because I want something that I could use if I'm ever playing or practicing indoors. But also, I want something that looks cool when I go to the rink. Something that will protect my stick in style,
Hmm.
and won't damage my car. I realize that moms and dads appreciate this product just as much. And as a coach myself, when I started throwing my stuff in, threw my sticks in my car, I started realizing, it wasn't long that I had black nick scratches all on the interior of my car, and
Hmm.
sometimes I damaged the side. And I said, "Geez, this is great for myself. I mean, let alone a hockey player." So there's multiple functions, and so luckily we were able to keep the program going, of course, and we just recently designed the Sockey, which is more of a neoprene fabric that has a zippered back, and people love it. I mean, it's been taking off. I tested them for a while with the program just to see if it would work on floors, and it did. And of course, I tested it for myself when I use it when I travel for my sticks. And it just got to the point where we developed it and we designed them that we could also customize them,
Hmm.
which is great. I mean, again, maybe it's my own personal hockey experience growing up, but what a better way to be walking with a piece of equipment that you can customize with your own number or your team logo. I mean, it just makes it all better.
I love it. I think it's
Yeah,
such a cool idea too, especially as you said. Now it's more than just like, hey, you can play floor hockey. Now it's a protection. You
right.
can use it for protection. You can use it because it looks really cool. If you can customize it, if a whole team gets one,
Right.
right? Like that
Yep.
looks pretty
Yeah.
damn cool. Everyone walking in like that, especially
Yeah.
when you're in that like teenage, like
Oh, yeah.
early 20s. Like that's kind of the only thing you care about is looking cool, right? So
Exactly.
it's that aspect of it is pretty great too. And I guess what's it been like trying to build this brand and build this product line, especially in understanding like, hey, if you want this to be your full-time job, you're gonna have to sell a lot of these things.
Yes. Yes. It's been interesting. I mean, I love it. I'm passionate about it. I mean, this has been my baby, so to speak, for
Hmm.
so long. But I'm learning a lot along the way as well, which is great. And really, I've had a lot of help from a lot of friends and family that are kind of in that world that can direct me to the right people or have assisted me themselves. So there's a lot of people that I could thank to help me get that ball rolling. But you're right; it's been quite an experience. And again, maybe I think I'm fortunate that two things in the hockey world. The hockey world is a small world, especially if you've been involved for several years. The
Hmm.
worlds just overlap, and also around the Philadelphia area, especially. I mean, you there's just multiple overlaps of who knows who or who played with who or who's got a brother that played here and them. So that's helped out a lot as well to kind of spread the word. A couple people have heard about it and they said, "Oh yeah, I remember I played with Borowsky growing up, and yeah, let's do this." And we've been fortunate to help spread the word in that sense. We also had a few charity events coming up that unfortunately were canceled and
Hmm.
postponed. They were supposed to be in March and April. Same thing for people that I've either just grown up with, friends of friends in the family. A couple of the Flyers alumni were involved for some charity games, some NHL alumni. Again, it's one person that just knows another person
Hmm.
that played with so-and-so in that small hockey world. And that's been able to give us a little bit of momentum, which is great.
I love it. I think
Yeah.
it's great. One thing about it, again, it's easy, it's fun, it can be utilized for all ages, right? It can be utilized for kids all the way
Yeah.
up to professionals if they really want to at some point. So I think just kind of the sweet spot that you're hitting, it's specific enough, but also broad enough that you can actually capture a significant portion of the market. And with what has been going on in this time where everyone's kind of stuck inside, you tell me. I don't really know, how many ice rinks are still available for teams to practice in. It seems like the perfect time. You're going to want a Sockey, so that way you can still do some stick handling. You can still practice some of the stuff. So what have you seen from that regard of, I don't know if sales have gotten better or didn't decrease as much as you expected with all this going on. But if you don't mind giving us a little backstory into that, I think it would be great.
Sure, sure. Yep. Sales have increased because of that. We actually tweaked the design a little bit for
Hmm.
that factor. Originally, the Sockey was an elastic back, and it was made really just for indoor play. Specifically, again, I wanted to use it for the game. But then, as it kind of grew a little bit, and I realized that I wanted to make this more for also the ice hockey player, not
Hmm.
just the indoor floor hockey player. We added a zippered back, which was a game changer. And really, now it's has the dual function, of course. But if you're an ice hockey player, and it's super relevant for right now, of course, because you're stuck inside, you
Hmm.
want to play hockey, you need to practice your skills. There's a huge following of virtual online classes and training right now, and a lot of kids don't have the capability to play anywhere. You could do they might have a computer and they might
Hmm.
want, to play and stick handle, but they can't.
Yeah.
They can't go outside, or they don't have a garage. So you slap one of these Sockies on your stick, and you can do it in your kitchen.
Hmm.
Use the right ball, your kitchen floor won't be damaged. I mean, it's great. So I really wanted to keep that in mind. I wanted to, as much as as much as we love it as far as it looking cool and being a nice new cool product that no one's ever seen, while you protect your stick and you travel to the rink, I wanted to have a really good function for that hockey player,
Hmm.
that I was when I was growing up, and how cool it would have been for me to have this and to just play in my kitchen on a bitter cold, freezing, snowy day when I couldn't even go anywhere, but I could still play in my house and stick handle with a ball or a
Yep.
puck, and that's been really our goal. And, um, to answer your question, it's helped in that regard to boost sales a little bit, because kids get it, and hockey moms love it. You
Hmm.
know, hey, if they can get something that to keep their kid playing and not ruin their house, I mean, it's the 1-2 punch right there.
Yeah, right. You said use the right ball. Hopefully, not a tennis ball, because I feel like that can get hit a little too hard and break
Yeah,
a couple things in the house.
yeah,
But no,
definitely.
I mean it's pretty cool, and kudos to you guys for being able to, for lack of a better term, take advantage of what's going on. It's obviously nobody wants this to happen, of course, right? But if you can
Right.
find the positives in it, if you can do some things that come out of it, that way you guys are set up for the future. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Nothing wrong with trying to better yourself, better your business, and you're helping everyone else, right? Like you got into
Right.
teaching to help kids. Now you're just helping them in another way, which I think is great.
And that's the thing. It's, in the back of my mind, it's kind of, you feel a little guilty because you're just like, oh
Don't.
wow, am I really taking advantage? But you know what? We're doing a lot to help kids keep a smile on their face and to keep
Mhm.
playing the game that they love, but also everything that we've been doing with all of the deals that we've been kind of discussing with, whether it's a local youth organization or a couple NHL affiliates that we're talking to. It's, we're talking about how can we give back in some sense,
Mhm.
with the revenue that's being generated. Does your organization need this to keep afloat, for the rink, because the rink needs work and you haven't been able to generate any revenue, or do you need this for a local hospital, nursing home that you are trying to give back to or help out? So that's one of the questions that we're always having with any discussions that we do for some of these larger orders.
Mhm.
And we love, from the beginning, it's all about the community. We have a
Absolutely.
couple fundraisers that we've done in the past, and again, those charity events, we've just donated the product. We've
Mhm.
made custom sakis for anybody that's playing in all of our charity games. Yeah, so it's all about giving back for us, for sure.
Of course, and it seems like you're doing a great job at it, and that seems like it's just been kind of your life, right? Giving back as a
Yeah,
teacher, giving back as a coach, and now, finding other opportunities and other avenues to give back as well. And one thing, I mean, I think it's such a cool product that pretty much anybody that plays hockey can utilize. Marketing seems like it has to be number one on everyone's mind at all time. And I know you said you've talked to some Flyers alumni, which is awesome. So you're getting some people that were from the NHL. What other avenues are you guys trying to market this product to? I mean, you have to get it in front of the parents, right? Because they're the ones that are going to buy it, but the kids have to think
sure.
it's cool. So it's kind of this like dual way of going about it. So what are you guys doing, without giving up too much of the secret sauce, to really just get the product in front of the right people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So again, yeah, we're lucky that again in the hockey world, it's a small world. So somebody that knows
Hmm.
someone that is interested and willing to take a shot. We've been again, sometimes to a fault, I donate, so I like to give back. So we've done
Hmm.
some events with also the women's the PWHPA, yeah, Professional Women's Hockey Players Association. They've had a couple events that came through right before COVID came around. There was one in Toronto, one outside of Philadelphia at the Voorhees Skate Zone, and we were happy to donate Sockies, about 200 to 200 per event, just to get them into the hands of kids, to show them what we have, and
Hmm.
to make them feel good about playing, and to walk away from these awesome events with something special that just reminded them about being there and seeing the showcase. So we've been just kind of donating a little bit, donating the product and getting it out there. We've also linked up with a lot of distributors that have seen obviously an increase in online sales.
Hmm.
And whether it's something where they would like to put their own logo on the Sockey, which we can do, and they give them out, if you spend a certain amount of money, spend X, get a free Sockey. That always works. Yeah, it's been pretty much the online,
Hmm.
and the social media sales, but also wherever. See, the tricky part is, again, we're all inside, so it's
Yes.
hard. We can't go to a hockey rink and have an event. That's been the tricky part right now. So a lot of it is those players that are in the house
Hmm.
playing, focusing on their skills. A lot of the guys that are doing some online training, virtual training, are interested in pushing this product out, because they know that they have hockey players that want to play, but they have no means of doing it because they don't have the right equipment, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but as you said, if sales are increasing and people are starting to notice what you guys are doing a little bit more, I think you're clearly doing something right. So don't stop whatever you're doing there, and we appreciate that you're giving back too. I think that part's it's great, and yeah, you just got to get the product in people's hands, right? It's like a restaurant. No one's going to go to
Yeah.
the restaurant till they know the food's good, and if they're going to check out your product and see it's good, they're then going to tell their friends. And I guess you brought it up before. You were using tube socks, you were using sweat socks, and they would get ruined, so you need a new one. I have not seen the product, but I assume from this conversation and some of our previous conversations that it's a good product, and it's not
Oh
like
yeah.
it's gonna get ruined. So,
Yeah.
how often does the life cycle of a product or a customer, and again, we don't have to dive super deep into the financials, but it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, are there multiple stick sizes that eventually when they grow, they'll need to buy more, or how does that work? Because if someone buys one once and it's a really good product, they're not going to need to buy one for a while. So you need to go out and find a whole new
Right.
customer, right?
Right. And that's a great question. It's a great point. It's actually something that we really thought about when we designed this, was with a hockey player in mind, and the stick blade. The stick blades, they do vary, but not so much
Hmm.
where, there are youth sticks, obviously, and adult sticks. The blades are pretty close in size, close enough
Hmm.
that the way we designed this model, and again, that's where the zippered back came into play, was that
Hmm.
it keeps it tight and fresh, and it has that capability to stretch a little bit if needed. Or if the stick blade is a little bit smaller than the design of the Sockey, it's still zippered shut, so it
Hmm.
will keep it secure and safe, which has been great. So it's durable.
Exactly.
So yeah, to your point, it's almost too durable. It's great. You could buy a Sockey and have it forever. But we hope we're going to come out with different styles,
Hmm.
and what you might like right now when we come up with our newer version, our newer models. We're going to try and maybe be a little bit more fun and creative. You're always going to have the option for your team logo and team number, which I think is very important
Yes.
and cool. But being an elementary school teacher, you have that silly background sometimes. So I have some fun ideas planned of different patterns and what kids might like. And
Hmm.
I've envisioned this as, geez, you have 5 to 10 at your house, and which one do you want to wear today when you go to the rink?
Yep.
Which one do you want to show off? Because that's an important part of the product that I always try not to forget about. Is it's great to play indoors and to use this as a tool to help you practice, but more so, you want to wear this to the ring.
Hmm. Hmm.
This is important, again, for mom and dad's car, but also, there's with everything going on at the hockey rinks right now, the new protocols about where you can get dressed in the locker room and how far you have to be spaced out from people. Um, it's going to be important to have your equipment, labeled,
Hmm.
for lack of a better term. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't know where kids are going to have to be sitting in these locker rooms. I think the new rules are you could only maybe have about 6 kids in a locker room at a time. You have to come to the rink dressed full gear, which we haven't done that since we were little, 5,
Hmm.
6 year olds. Wake up, you get dressed at home, and you drive to the rink with all your equipment on except for your skates. That's kind of the new norm right now with all the
Hmm.
rules and regulations. So you might be getting dressed in the snack shop, and you don't want your stick to get lost. You
Yeah.
want, something on there that shows your number, or even, your team logo and your name. And because you don't want to lose your stick. I mean, these sticks are so expensive right now. It's unbelievable. And they don't
Yeah.
want it to break. So,
Hmm.
that's that double function. of how important it is to have your stick protected and to know which one's yours.
Yeah, I think the customization factor is definitely a piece that will have people buy maybe one, two, three, as you said. Like, and I appreciate that you guys even thought of that. As you know, I hate the replace economy. I really prefer the repair economy because it's ridiculous to have something, have it break, throw it out, and buy a new one. And
Right.
so it sounds like you guys did not go that route where this is very durable. Our goal is for you to have this for the rest of your life. But you might want to you have multiple pairs of shoes, right? You got different
Yeah.
hats, just think about it like that. Have it customized. Maybe every year you get a new one for the team, the number, as you said, which is really cool. And those opportunities, again, it's not like it's a absurdly expensive product. It's very affordable and it's doing a lot for you. So I think that part's very important as well. And it sounds like you guys are hitting the nail on the head. So appreciate you there.
Yeah, thanks. We try to. I kind of envision us again. I'm a diehard hockey player growing up, so it's more of like I could see it being a collection type of piece. I
Hmm.
remember when I was traveling, going to tournaments, and still to this day, kids want a piece of memorabilia from that tournament. It's usually a hat or a T-shirt. We've been talking to a few tournaments and rink owners that like the idea of this being something that you get when you're at a tournament.
Hmm.
You have
Yeah.
like Lake Placid is a big one, of course. You go to Lake Placid, you walk away with a Lake Placid 2020 hockey Sockey on your stick to remember that weekend tournament by. Things like that. So I envision this as something as more of like a collection, because the product works so great. It's kind of like, which one do you pick to wear today? Kind
Hmm.
of a thing.
Yeah, that's cool. I would like
Yeah.
that, like, especially when you loop it in with the tournaments, the events, especially. Maybe we can get you at the Olympics one of these years. How's that
Yeah,
sound?
it'd be
That'd be
amazing.
kind of cool. That'd be kind of cool. But
Yeah.
so couple more topics before I'm out of questions, pretty much. So one thing we touched upon it a little bit before, how by introducing this into the school system and helping other kids understand it, you've really been able to introduce hockey to a brand new generation and a whole new group of kids. How have you seen through coaching, through teaching, and through obviously this program, have you seen kids either adopt the sport more, adopt new life lessons? How have you seen just by introducing Sockey that they've been able to develop better, especially from a younger age?
Oh, that's a great question. Because that was actually one of the main focuses when we started the program, Saki, in the schools. Because another point to that is, we always wanted to give back to the community. And when I designed this program, I really wanted to put all the pieces together that would really make it fun for the kids and have them have learning experiences. And all of our Saki coaches are actually their teachers. So I made it a point
Hmm.
that you're not going to have, a random college kid roll out of bed at, 2 o'clock and wake up and be at Sockey at 2:30 in the afternoon and say, okay, guys, go play. We make it a point that all of the teachers within the school districts at that school are the coaches. They might not have the most hockey background, but they
Hmm.
have the background in just, learning and
Exactly.
teaching those life skills that, everything from teamwork to just that overall effort and being on time and being ready, coming prepared, all those life skills we try to incorporate with the game. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's been incredibly successful and also a confidence booster. It's funny because, again, so many of these kids that join the actual game, Sockey, and play the program are not hockey players.
Hmm.
And they just love being there. They love interacting with their friends. We play music. They love dancing on the sidelines. I mean, it's just good for their self-esteem. They don't have to be a great hockey player to play. We don't even keep score. So it's competitive, but it's fun, and they feel good about themselves just being able to run around and dance and do the best they can. And that's one of the life lessons that we try to instill is just, be yourself and have fun
Hmm.
and be confident with what you're doing. You don't have to be a hockey player. But it's caught on. I mean, it's funny because once we designed and tweaked the Sockey that we have now
Hmm.
with zipper back and everything, I sent them out to some of my former Sockey players that are now ice hockey players. And I've been getting pictures and emails coming in, not even saying anything, just showing me that they're running around their house right now with Sockies on their
Love
stick,
it.
playing indoors, and that's what it's all about. It comes full circle, how they're now using this product. I didn't even have to say anything. It's just, it makes sense. And so
Hmm.
a lot of these kids, they tried hockey for the first time with Sockey, and they turned into jumping on the ice, and they're hockey players now, which is great.
That is awesome. And that has to
Yeah.
be so cool from your perspective, just seeing like how you got these kids to understand this sport that, again, there's only so many hockey rinks here in New Jersey, but they at least were able to seek them out after realizing and playing they actually kind of like it, hitting this puck with a stick. It's actually
Yeah.
kind of fun. So I think that's great. And then the last thing I did want to talk about, as you said a couple times, you're no longer coaching anymore, which, hey, you have this cool new
Yeah.
side gig, this new business that you want to make very successful, and you're very passionate about it. So you're staying in the sport, but how much do you miss coaching? Like, cause I feel like that was one of the few things, obviously being a teacher, you at least still get that
Yeah.
kind of aspect, I guess, that teaching aspect out of it. But how much do you miss coaching? And like, what is that like? How did you make that decision to finally say, all right, no, I'm going to take the other half of my time instead of coach. I'm going to put it into this business.
Right. That's a great question because I miss it tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
I miss just being on the ice. And I'm sure every hockey player understands that, the competitiveness and of just coaching and being there. And, everybody can, you could be biased upon what sport you play. But for me, I mean, I think there's nothing better than that, the environment of a hockey ice rink and a locker
Mm-hmm.
room that could, that camaraderie and that everything. But I miss it. I miss the practices, skating. I miss the guys. I miss all that. But, hey, you get older and you have other responsibilities. I have a wife and I have two little girls. And so that takes my time up, and Sockey and teaching. And, it came to a point where I could be at the ice rink at 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night, or I could be home reading a book to my 5-year-old and, helping her get ready for bed. And, right now that was the priority. I'd have to put the ice hockey stuff to the side, and I want to be there for my two little girls and my wife, of course. And I didn't want to give up Sockey, so something had to come off the plate, and so it had to be the ice hockey piece. And I'm sure I'll get back to it, but I definitely miss it for sure. But I guess the answer to the question is just the priorities, and my wife and my two little girls come first, and then of course there's Sockey that comes second. And so we'll get back to coaching and playing a little bit. I like to get into miss playing myself some men's league.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fortunate that I can play in some charity games whenever they pop up. But
There you go.
yeah, that does it. That gets
Yeah.
the fix,
And it's not like you left the sport, right? That's the whole
Right.
point of Sockey itself, right? You're still in the sport. You're
Right.
in there some capacity. You're around the people, you're around the guys, you're around the parents, you're around the kids. And I think that's half of it, right? At least I'm sure being on the ice, there's that feeling for you, especially because you did it for so long. And as you said, you're going to get back into it. It's just a matter of time. But Andy,
Yeah.
this has been absolutely fantastic. Andy Borowsky, founder and CEO of Sockey. All the links for the social media, for the website, everything will be in the show notes, so everybody can go check it out there. But Andy, sincerely appreciate your time today, man.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Pleasure. Great speaking with you.